Alright, so I want to talk about the ways that helped me get through the dark night of the soul. Once I realized that I was going through the dark night of the soul, which is the birthing process of my spiritual awakening, I realized that I cannot fight against it. It's a force that you cannot fight against. It's a force that you want to allow to go. A couple years ago, I was in a car accident. Something very small. Somebody hit me from the back. Somebody was driving and bumped my car. So I remember in physical therapy, the therapist always told me, if you ever see impact coming, don't brace. Allow yourself to let go, because that's how you get whiplash, when you brace forward and then try to hit up against you and, you know, all this other stuff. So he was telling me that when you see impact, release, let your body go, you know. So when I was going through the dark night of the soul, and it felt like a piercing death going through my body, I wasn't conscious of it until the end of it. So I started to, you know, listen to videos, and I started to read books that say just let go. Be conscious of the pain, you know. Don't daydream about it being over. Just stick with it. When you're in the storm, just stick with it. Don't brace against it. Just allow it to flow, because once you allow the emotions to flow, you get through it more quicker. When you go with the tide instead of against the tide, it will flow more easier, more quicker, and you can get out of the dark night of the soul a whole lot better. But you have to be conscious of it, because the only thing I wanted to do was find answers. Of course, we all, you know, run around trying to find answers of while our lives is being spun and flipped upside down. So I stopped fighting against it. I started to release and let myself go, and then float on the water, and then it started to become unbearable at times. What I noticed is the only times that my dark night phase was becoming unbearable is when I wanted to get out of it. So during like the end of my dark night, that's when I found a Reiki healer. I actually did. I went to Reiki and it helped me a lot. And when I went to Reiki, she was telling me that she's going to relax my body and open my chakras. That's the first time I ever really heard about the chakras. She was going to relax my body, open up the chakras, and then I would feel my pain. I didn't hear feel my pain. I just heard her say, this is going to help you, and then relax your body and open your chakras. But when she said I had to feel this pain, I literally did not hear that part. I mean, I did, but I didn't understand what she was saying, because I wanted this pain gone. I thought that when I went to Reiki, she was going to wave her hands over me and take this pain away. I did not know that when I went to Reiki, you was actually going to feel more pain, because now she was opening energy centers that was blocked. So I remember calling her like 2 days after my session and was like, what? And I mean, you know, I know that this session worked, because when I got up, I felt a lot of tension release. Like I started to get flu-like symptoms when I was going to my Reiki healing. And my body was hot. And then it was like, I felt like I had just was like like I was exercising. So I knew something was happening, and I enjoyed that. But I didn't understand why I was so sad and down the next day or 2 days later. And then when I called her, she was kind of laughing, was like, that's what I told you have to feel. And I was like, well, I want this pain to go away. And she was like, it will, you just have to feel. It still didn't register with me, because I was like, no, that's not what I'm here for. I want you to zap it away. I don't want to go through this pain. Now I'm understanding that that was spiritual bypassing, but it never happened like that. So I went to Reiki a couple times to allow her to remove some of this energy. By that time, I started to understand what she was saying by feel it. So I would get Reiki on a Tuesday. By the time Thursday came, a lot of emotions would come up. A lot of negative thoughts would come up. A lot of sadness would come up. A lot of my depression would come up. And I would cry, and I would feel so uncomfortable. And I would try to walk, and I would try to, you know, jog, or I would try to scroll on my phone. But then when I realized that that was actually numbing the pain, that's what they say not to do. So I can only, at the time when I was first learning how to deal with that pain, the discomfort, I can only sit maybe 5 minutes by myself without fidgeting and grabbing for my phone. Then it worked up to maybe 10 minutes of me like not fidgeting and grabbing for my phone. So I went through maybe a couple more weeks of feeling deep sadness. Not as bad as it happened not as bad as it was when it first happened, but like grief. Like I was moving through the stages of grief. And I actually understood what was going on at this time. I kind of accepted it that I'm on a twin flame healing journey type of thing. I don't really like to label it twin flame because this journey is not about an actual person. It's actually a healing journey. It's just that I was awakened by a person that had the same soul makeup as me, the same core wounding as me. So I was actually starting to get used to this process. And then I would realize, okay, I thought I was healed. So, a couple days would go by and I would feel fantastic. And I would just be like, oh, that's it. I'm healed. I ain't got to go through that no more. And then the spiral went back around. So the spiral went back around. I can't draw, but I want to draw this spiral. And I want to draw this. I want to draw this spiral. It's kind of like a Christmas tree. I want to tell you how healing works. Okay. So the spiral is like this. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And peace. Okay. So this is the spiral that I went through when I was going through the dark night of the soul. It looks like a Christmas tree. So if I could see it, the G is for good, the B is for bad, and this is how I would feel. I would feel bad. I would sit with my emotions, and then I would go around to the cycle of feeling good, and I'd be like, oh my God, I am healed. I feel amazing. I ain't never got to go through that again. And then you go through another cycle, and then you go through another cycle, and then you go over here, and you start feeling bad again, and you be like, I'm going backwards. I thought I healed that. Oh my goodness. And then you go back around. Maybe a week later, maybe a month later, and you in expansion. It's contraction, expansion. I was in an expansion feeling, and I was like, okay, I'm bipolar, or something is going on with why am I up, why am I down? And then I was talking to a friend that actually went through healing, and she was like, healing is spiral. And I was like, no, I healed this. You don't understand. Like, I gave it to God and I let it go. Then it would go back around where I would be feeling bad. But if you can notice, my cycles started to get shorter and shorter. So this is like the deepest part of the dark night. And then when I would go in, it would only last for a couple weeks. Then I would feel good for a couple weeks. Then I would go up, and then feeling bad would only last for a couple days. And then I would feel good for a couple days. And then it spiraled up until I got a little bit further up from the good and the bad, and I got a little bit further up, and then when you get to the top, you start feeling peace. When you get more to the top, I'm not saying I'm completely healed or nothing like that. I know I still have some way to go, but I like to talk about my journey as I go along, because I don't want to wait till I get fully healed and complete and, meshed together to make these videos. I want to talk about it as I'm in it, because I know it's a lot of people that's going through it now. Something about the way that the universe is moving higher up in the earth, and a lot of people are awakening. I'm sorry, I got to move this piece of hair. It's getting on my nerves. A lot of people are awakening to their spiritual form, and a lot of people are getting in a lot of these same soul twin flame type of relationships that is kind of opening the divine feminine up, or however it works. And I just wanted to talk about it as I'm going through it. So as the spiral started to go up, I started to feel better a lot more longer, and feel I can't say worse, but contracted. I started to feel contracted a couple hours, and I started to feel good a couple days. So instead of me feeling really, really bad for a couple days and then good for a couple hours or one day, the spiral flipped, and it went up and it went up and it went up. And then as I started to get more of my soul integrated and then less of my ego, so the more my soul took over and the less my ego allowed my soul to take over, they can both integrate and mesh together. So now I have a lot more expansion days. I don't want to label them as good or bad, because good or bad is a perception that the ego gives a situation. This whole cycle is neither good nor bad. It's needed. So I don't want to say I'm having a bad day when I have a cycle of negative emotions, because that's just labeling my emotions as bad, and they are my emotions. And the way through the dark night of the soul is to accept your emotions and love them. You cannot go around healing. You have to go through it. You have to go through that tunnel until you get to the end of the light. And if you try to suppress it, your shadow will show itself in another relationship or another situation. You could get another job. You're going to hate it just like you hated the last one. You can get into another relationship. That one is going to crumble just like the last one. You can move houses. You can move states. It does not matter. If you do not go through the healing process, history will repeat itself, because you still have that same core wounding inside of you. The best thing that you can do when you're going through the dark night of the soul is to let go and float on top of the water and just allow the tide to take you through it. And you'll notice that your contraction stages will be far less, and then your expansion stages will be greater. And, that's just the way that I got through the dark night of the soul. That's the way that I know healing works from my own experience. And I'm going to tell you, if you're going through a healing cycle right now and you notice that some days you're up and some days you're bad, some days you're down, don't feel bad on the days that you're feeling down. It's just the birthing process. It's the normal process of you awakening. You did not retract your healing. One thing about a spiritual awakening, it does not stop. Once that Kundalini energy is activated, it cannot stop. Now, you can allow it to move up a little bit quicker, or you can keep it suppressed for a little bit longer, but it does not stop. So you're going to have to go through the process one way or another. The more you try to fight against it, the more you try to stop it, the more pain you'll start to feel, the more things in your life you'll notice will start to, I'm not saying that it'll go wrong for you, but it won't go the way that you expected. You'll be stagnant. So the best way to get through the dark night of the soul is to continue on to float downstream with it. Go with your emotions. Do not suppress your emotions. Do not suppress your shadow. Allow your shadow to come to the surface. And once you get out of the tunnel, you'll realize you'll enter the bliss stage. And the bliss stage is far more manageable than a dark night of the soul.